Houses settle over time, which can cause your floors to slope, especially in a 100-year-old house like mine. In this video, I'll show how to fix your floor so that it's level and flat again. The first part of this project is to remove all flooring and the subfloor that's attached to the joists. This room has a thin sheet of 1/4-inch plywood. It's nailed to some plank wood flooring. For how old it is, this floor is actually in pretty good shape, but it slopes toward the center of the house. It has almost a 2-inch drop over the 8-foot width of the room, which makes it basically impossible to put anything with wheels in here. In addition to leveling this floor, I'm going to replace the plywood and planks with a single sheet of thicker plywood that'll feel a lot more solid. What's this? Someone got an invite to this church, March 16th, 1955. That's so wild. How did it end up in the floor? Were they didn't want to go, so they snuck it down through the floorboards here? Once again, you never know what you're going to find when you start taking stuff apart in an old house. Very cool. These planks are pretty haphazardly laid out. This room used to be part of an attic space, and 2 of these walls were added later. So some of the planks continue under this wall and need to be cut with a multi-tool at the edge of the wall. Same goes for some of the plywood and the boards on the long edge of the wall. This room also had some old radiator pipes in the floor for a boiler that was removed years ago. So, while I've got the floor open, I'm going to go ahead and remove these. Once I get enough boards up on one side of the room, I'll start laying in new 2x6s one after the other, leveling them as I go. To do this, they will be sistered with the existing joists at an angle dictated by the laser level. So if I do this for every joist, I'll have all new, flat and level 2x6s that I'll attach the new subfloor to. We've got the low side of the wall and the high side of the wall, where this one is about 2 inches higher. Now, this is a 2x10, it's the old joist. So what we're doing is I'm going to sister a 2x6s so that instead of being at an angle, it goes straight across here and is level. Just to demonstrate the difference, this is the level on an old joist. And here it is on the new one. Pretty good. There are 15 joists in this room total, so for each one I measure, cut, glue, level, and fasten each 2x6. I wouldn't say that this is difficult, but it is time consuming. I also ran into some old knob and tube electrical wiring that was in the way, so I had to trace the wires, deactivate that circuit, cut the wiring out of the floor, and reroute some other electrical to power the stuff that those wires were powering. Also, I'd recommend using clamps on the 2 boards after the glue, which I didn't think about until joist number 9. It makes everything a lot easier. Also, just for fun, I had some extra hurricane ties and other brackets left over from another project, so I went ahead and secured some of the joists using those.
Okay, about 5¼ inches.
One thing I did not anticipate is that the ceiling of the room immediately below this room was also redone at some point, and they sistered in 2x4s to presumably even out the ceiling of that room. And so I had to use a planer to shave down some of these 2x6s in order to fit. Once I have all the joists leveled on one side of the room, I go ahead and lay down the new subfloor. Because one side of the room was essentially raised up by about 2 inches, before I attach the new subfloor to the leveled joists, I need to cut out some of the existing trim so that the subfloor can fit. I'm using 3/4 inch plywood for this subfloor, so it'll be nice and sturdy. Installation is the usual. Use construction glue on the joists to prevent rubbing and squeaking. Fasten with construction screws every 6 inches around the edges and every 12 inches on the interior of the board. Since I had some extra scrap wood and there are a couple gaps that are able to be filled in here, I decided to go ahead and fill in some of these spaces between the old joists and the new subfloor. And likewise, I thought it wouldn't kill anybody to add some blocking under the non-load bearing walls using some of the extra bits of 2x6 I still had. The end product of the leveled floors: 4 sheets of plywood, 14 2x6s put against the joists to do the actual leveling, and a nice flat floor. Pretty good. Perfectly level here to here. Now this span right here had the largest difference. Before, over 8 feet from wall to wall, the difference was 1.5 inches. It's now pretty close to 0. So, huge improvement. I've got a nice level floor now, and it's all prepared for installation of laminate over top.